What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today we're here at Cortez Performance. We got Dubai finally. Today's the day we're gonna get her dialed in, finally get her all tuned up, and of course by Nick D. You already know, the best of the best. So we're gonna unload it. Oh shit, I heard that, y'all heard that. So yeah, we're gonna unload this and get her ready to get her on the dyno.
Back in 2020 or something.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah,
It's been a bit.
yeah, and it's not a daily, so it's a cruiser, so I'll drive it like 4 or 5 times out of.
Fuel is it on?
It's on the E85.
E85.
Yeah.
Okay. Same injectors.
Same injector, same everything.
All right. Let me grab the keys from you.
Yeah, they're in the ignition.
They're in there. Okay. We're going to be pulling a car off the dyno here shortly, and then this can go right on. So
All right.
we just started to make sure everything sounds good.
Only in the mornings. When it's cold, it takes a couple of times to start.
That's when it's really cold out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's they're harder starting.
It's normal, right?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree.
you're gonna.
I mean, if it
Yeah.
sits there and crank and it doesn't start, oh, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a couple of times for it until it starts, but
Pretty
it's
typical.
just to like
as long
warms
as
up.
it starts and then stays running.
Yeah.
It's good.
I mean, for the power it's doing, it should hold. I think it pulled down like 600.
Yeah. Are we doing Coles in second or third gear? Do you remember?
Second.
Second. Okay. Yeah. Normally.
We did.
Normally we do trucks and SUVs in second gear because we don't want to risk anything.
Yeah. We did the second.
Okay.
Even though I upgraded my drive shaft and everything.
Yeah.
I didn't want to risk it with the third.
If
I mean.
feel a vibration, I'm gonna let out, and we're just gonna do it in second anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
I want to have a drive shaft.
I got new tires, so we should be good.
Okay. All right. Let me check on it.
Cool. Sí, pues. Es que esa madre tiene que estar rodando derechito, güey. Una vez vine, güey, pues la troca duró parada un tiempo, ¿verdad? Y cuando la dejas parada, pues las llantas se dan boludas. So vine al dyno, güey, y empezó a ir a pa. Dije, a la verga. ¿Y qué pedo? Me dijeron que a lo mejor era mi drive shaft. So yo mandé a hacer el drive shaft más grande, uno más chingón. Y nada, que eran las llantas. Estaban boludas, pues estar paradas, se hacen boludas. Ojalá no haya fallas, porque... Pero este vato, Nick D, el que conoce a Nick D, es el mejor tuneador de aquí, de Arizona. Yo sé que hay muchos tuneadores aquí, como... Pues no quiero decir nombres, there's good tuners out here.
¿Puro LS hace este?
Él sí hace puro LS. There's good tuners here in AZ. Pero es que este vato te lo deja como en un safe tune, ¿sí me entiendes? Para que no se te vaya a hacer blow, ya lo viste.
Sí, he's gonna let off.
Yeah.
I like that.
Sí, pues que la cuida la verga porque salen caras.
Pues es que ahorita la queremos ir a cargar.
No,
Que se quiebre con nosotros.
Oh,
no
sí. Pero pues como te digo, para el power que está haciendo no es para que se madre esa transmisión, güey. Porque está haciendo como de 600 a 650. Eso no es para que se madre la transmisión. Esa transmisión está capable of 1000 horsepower.
Yeah. No, pues ya salió el mamalona ya. So. Who's next?
Ese carrito... ¿Eh? Simón. A ver como cuánto hizo ese. Se me hace que... Ese es el mismo motor que trae esta. Venga tu madre.
Puta la verga.
So it's lean as shit right now.
Uh-huh.
And it shouldn't be that far off. I just had Chris watch the fuel pressure gauge.
Uh-huh.
It goes from 60 down to 50 as soon as I floor it.
Okay.
It's kind of the opposite of what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, so it's asking for more fuel.
Yeah, I mean, normally if there's no external regulator that's referenced, your fuel pressure is going to drop a little bit, but not 10 psi right off the bat. I don't know if your fuel pump's starting to get weak.
Well, I just replaced it because I had
did you?
I had to reschedule my tune. It was like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I rescheduled it because the pump went out.
The pump took a
Yeah,
shit.
so it's a brand new pump.
Where'd you get it from?
I got it from, what is that called on 12th Street in Indian School? Lopers?
Lopers, okay. So they generally sell genuine stuff. They're not usually selling like knockoff stuff.
Yeah.
So I gotta imagine it's a real 450. It's just not normal to have a 10 psi drop.
Yeah, so what do you think it's the issue?
Did you upgrade the wiring at all? Or is it running off the factory power and ground going to the fuel pump?
Yeah, at the factory.
Factory?
Yeah.
Okay. So a Walbro 450 is going to pull about twice the amount of current that your stock pump was pulling. That generally means you have to upgrade your power and grounds to the fuel pump to allow it to get as much juice as it can, essentially. You've got this big fuel pump, but it's trying to pull a bunch of power and current through these little wires, little OEM wires. Generally speaking, when you're doing big fuel pumps like a Walbro 450, you have to upgrade from the factory wiring. You know, the factory wiring is barely adequate for a stock fuel pump. You throw a big fuel pump in there that needs a lot more current and or is going to draw a lot more current. You have to up the wire gauge. You know.
So just you're thinking
but it was like this before, right?
Yeah, it was like that before, and it was and that's what tripped everybody out because I was telling a couple of my buddies, you know, they got about the same setup and they're running 2 pumps.
Yeah.
And it's how the fuck are you running 1 pump? Like, I said, I don't know. I mean, it did fine last time and it was running hella good.
The fuel was looking good last time, but it's not looking good now. I mean, it's, you know, we were right around mid-11 AFR before with no changes just to see what was going to happen. We're up at like a 13.8. So we're 25% off from where it should be.
Yeah.
Just kind of trying to figure out what has changed since 2020.
Yeah, nothing, literally nothing. Just
so, well, the only thing I can go off of is I see the fuel pressure gauge and it's dropping 10 psi.
And
I can try and tune around that for right now, but why do I have to do that? Like I shouldn't have to because that means something's wrong.
yeah,
But again, you said the wiring and everything was the same as it was before.
yeah, everything was the same.
Well, let me see what I can do. It's really strange to have that far off.
I mean, we pull the motor out, shit gets moved around, but I mean, everything.
But if it's the same cam and the same,
everything's the same, yeah.
All that stuff.
Everything.
I mean, yes, there are differences from motor to motor, so I'd expect to see 5, maybe 10%, not 25. Like something.
That's a lot.
Let me see what I can. Let me see what else I can see.
Okay.
How about this? Is it possible that it's not E54? Is it possible it's E85?
Wow.
Because looking at how far off it is, and if I'm doing the math on it.
Well, you know, they don't sell E85s at the gas stations now. They downgrade to.
Some of them are.
Yeah, I mean, I pumped the one on I mean, you're not going to be part familiar with it. And I live in 91st.
I'm not.
No.
So without a flex fuel sensor, this is where you have to test every time you put fuel in the truck. Because certain gas stations have switched back to E85. Some are still E54, but some are like E85 now.
And that, does that affect it when it's...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
That's about a 15 to 20% change going from E85
well, that
to
kind
E54.
Why don't you try switching it to 85?
So here's the other concern, is that E85, as you go up in ethanol content, your fuel requirements go up. How much volume it's pumping goes up. So if we're 20% lean, that also means that your fuel pump needs to be able to supply that additional 20% over E50.
Yeah.
So we may be running into something now where if it's full E85, your fuel pump's probably not going to keep up. It kept up before because it was E50.
Yeah, okay.
And
then we would have to
what? A sensor in the car, it has no idea what the ethanol content is. So going from 91 octane to full E85, 30 to 35% difference. Let me just try it. I'm going to set it to E85 and see if that starts to make more of a correction.
Okay.
But the problem is your fuel pressure is already dropping 10 psi. Me adding all that additional fuel is going to make it drop more.
Okay, and if it drops more, then we know it for a fact we need another fuel pump, right?
Yeah.
More fuel.
Yeah. So it's very important, because your truck does not have a flex fuel sensor. You've got to test what you're putting in the vehicle.
Okay.
And that could be the difference between a blown up motor and a motor that's just fine.
Okay, yeah.
That's a huge difference. So
all right, damn.
Let me just try and put it to E85 and see what happens.
Okay.
And then what I would recommend is testing.
How do you test them?
Well, you get a little test tube. You basically fill it up to a certain amount with the fuel.
Okay.
And add a little bit of water to get to the next hash mark.
Okay.
Shake it up, let it settle, and see where the line is.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little test tube. You know, it's easy to use.
You buy it online?
Yeah.
Okay.
You get like Summit or Amazon or any of those places. Really.
Oh, okay.
But that's the easiest way to test your ethanol content. It's just that little tester.
Yeah, my buddy was telling me, I seen people test their E85, and I was like, I never do that shit. But man, it makes sense.
If you had a flex fuel sensor on the truck, then the truck would automatically adjust for everything in between. But this doesn't have it. So
yeah, it makes sense.
We have to hard code it for whatever ethanol you're running.
Yeah.
So that's why it's critical to have the right percent. My guess is this is full E85. Let me see what happens.
Okay. All right. There's only one way to find out. Blow that motherfucker. No, I'm just kidding. Es que el que sabe, sabe, ¿sí o no? El que sabe, sabe.
¿Cómo sabes?
Oh, yo no sé ni qué verga.
Dísele esa madre.
Ya ves, le quería echar diésel ahorita, güey. Le quería echar diésel a aquella pendejada. No, pues es que así es, así pasa. Y sí, te dije, no, ¿a quién le dije? O sí te dije, le debería poner el pinche sensor para el flexio en este tiempo, pero well, I got so much shit going on, like the last thing I was worried about was that thing, you know, like, pero ya ahorita que estamos aquí digo, ¿por qué no hice esto? ¿Por qué no hice aquello? ¿Por qué no? Le dijo que iba a cambiar de E54 a 85 a ver qué pasa. Porque no sabemos qué traemos, no sabemos si traemos E85 o E54. Estas pinches gasolineras de aquí de Arizona nos están robando.
Ese no es el que trae diésel, esa madre,
A ver cómo se oye. Soy yo mejor. Soy yo mejor. Ahora sí. Me chorrié.
¿Qué, güey? Es que no sabes ni la gasolina que...
¿Ya le dio el detalle?
Sí. No sé, pero yo sé porque cómo se oye. Porque ya se oyó mejor.
No, y como que se le estaba cortando hace rato, ahorita ya no.
Simón. Y es que le estaba poniendo que era de otra gasolina y era de otra.
Tiene que llevar el especial pack.
Y es que como dice, como la troca no tiene el sensor para leer la gasolina que tú le echas, le tienes que poner en la computadora, en el sistema, la gasolina que lleva, porque si no es la gasolina que lleva, ya empieza a correr diferente. Y eso puede hacer que dañes el motor. Out of fuel, okay. That's
On
weird.
the previous poll, when I had it set for E54, it went from 60 to 50. Now we're going from 60 to 40.
On E80,
I believe you have full E85 in there.
okay, because it ran better, right? It sounded way better.
And the fueling is starting to line up again
Okay.
with where it was previously. So when it was previously tuned in 2020, it was definitely on E54.
Okay.
I have a feeling this is full E85.
Okay.
So you are going to need 2 pumps. You're going to have an external fuel pressure regulator
Okay.
that's just set at a static 60 psi.
Okay.
You're going to have to trigger that second Walbro 450 off of like a Hobb switch, like a 3 psi Hobb switch,
Okay.
because you do not want to have 2 Walbro 450s running full time.
Okay.
You want to have that second one trigger under boost.
Trigger under boost.
So like a 3 psi,
Okay.
because it's only making about 10 pounds, but you want to have that second pump kick in real quick.
Okay.
So get a 3 psi Hobb switch and wire up the second Walbro 450 to trigger off of that.
Okay.
Because you're going to have so much fuel, you cannot use the built-in regulator in the fuel tank. You're going to overload that big time.
Okay.
You have to have an external fuel pressure regulator that you put somewhere in the engine bay.
Okay.
Don't put it on the firewall.
Not on the firewall. That's where everybody puts them,
I
right?
know,
Normally.
it's not in HRE.
Where do you recommend?
Anywhere but there.
Okay.
Because if something happens to the transmission and it sends something up the firewall, it's going to slice those fuel lines, and that's the theory. You know?
Okay.
Generally speaking, I would put it on the fender, or you can have it, somewhere other than just the firewalls, where I would not put it.
Okay.
So technically, you can probably get away with it, but I don't like to put it on the firewall. So. After 4,500 RPM, it is well out of fuel. So at this point in time, I'm going to say it's not safe to beat on, because fuel pressure, a 20 psi drop in fuel pressure is way too much.
Okay.
It's normal to have a 3 or 4 psi drop on a deadheaded system like this, but not 20.
Okay.
So.
But I could cruise it, right?
Yep.
All right.
It's tuned for E85 because that's what's in the tank.
So I'm gonna have to stick to fucking
you're gonna
E85
have
and
to start measuring.
measuring.
Yep,
Okay.
start measuring it. I've got all that information down there in the bottom in the notes.
Okay.
Just talking about the fuel pressure drop and stuff like that. We've gone as far as we can go today. You've got to get a second pump in there. You've got to set it up correctly with
Okay.
a Hobb switch. You've got to get an external fuel pressure regulator. It's the next step because you're running full E85 and everything else. You got to get that fuel system under control because it will cost you a motor.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well.
And it is blowing the tires off on the dyno still.
It's still blowing them off.
Yeah. But for now, you're going to have to stick with measuring the ethanol content when you're filling up, or fill up at the same place all the time and just measure it every once in a while.
Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, because you don't have a sensor, I'd be probably measuring it every time.
Yeah, I never knew about that measuring, but makes sense.
Yep. We're gonna get it pulled off. Head on up front.
Okay.
Square up with them, and it's gonna have to come back.
Yeah.
To get the fuel system squared away.
Okay.
So
Sounds good. We'll be in touch then.
sounds good. We'll get it pulled off here.
Thanks, Nick. Pues ahí quedó. Vamos a tener que hacerle upgrade el fuel system.
¿Qué? Pero sí le podemos meter la chancla ahorita todo lo que da.
Oh, no, no se puede, no se puede. No se puede, no se puede. Tenemos que dar otra pompa porque está pidiendo más gasolina. So, I mean, it is capable of making more power, but not until we replace that fuel pump. Well, not replace the fuel pump, actually add another fuel pump. We need to add another fuel pump, so gotta get that scheduled in so we can get it taken care of. Cause I wanna be driving my truck finished and ready to roll. Ah, this camera's nice. I like the front camera. I like that this truck has a front camera. Hay que bajar la rampa ahí. Ahí la voy a bajar. ¿La rampa? Sí. Sí, primo. Hay que bajar las rampas y luego le voy a dar un poquito más para atrás para que quede la trailer aquí bajita, sí, para que no tope. Ándele. That's the easiest way to unload it and load it. Está la Dubai-zona. Pues ahí estamos, mi gente. Thank you guys for watching. I'll be uploading the next video when we get that fuel pump swap, so stay tuned. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram and on Facebook at Lsa Racing. Ahí estamos, mi gente.